You gotta tell them Soylent Green is people!
Soylent Green is people. It is one of the notable spoilers in cinema history. A line so deeply embedded in pop culture that many people discover the secret long before they ever sit down to watch the film. But that line, the meme, the iconic scream at the end, that is not the most unsettling part of Soylent Green. It is just the entry point. Hello and welcome back to Golden Flicker. I'm Gabe, and in this video we are going beyond the scream to uncover a story of artistic betrayal, a dying actor's secret, and a warning about our future that Hollywood tried to simplify, and in doing so, accidentally made it even more chilling. Behind the sensational cannibalism twist is a tug-of-war between a studio that wanted a punchy sci-fi thriller and an author who was desperately trying to warn us about the survival of our species. Released in 1973, Soylent Green gave audiences a grim vision of the year 2022. It was loosely adapted from Harry Harrison's 1966 novel Make Room, Make Room, a book so bleak and specific about overpopulation, resource scarcity, and systemic failure that Harrison later claimed the film had degutted his work. The movie keeps the sweltering heat, the hunger, and the crushing crowds, but it reshapes his quiet political nightmare into a shocking twist ending that would change the cinematic landscape forever. The world of Soylent Green is one where nature is a distant memory, fresh water is a luxury for the elite, and human life is so cheap that scoops, those massive riot trucks, literally shovel people off the streets like industrial waste. Charlton Heston's Detective Thorne is not a chosen hero. He's just a cop trying to survive the 120-degree days, who stumbles into a corporate secret big enough to shake the system, if anyone still cared enough to change it. So the question is, did you already know the secret before you ever saw the movie? Or did you experience the reveal for the first time on screen? And looking back now from the reality of our own 2020s, is the most disturbing part of Soylent Green even the reveal at all? Or is it how much of its world no longer feels like science fiction? The intellectual betrayal, a studio in crisis. To understand why Soylent Green differs so significantly from its source material, we have to look at the state of MGM in the early 1970s. The studio was facing severe financial difficulties and was operating on a cost-conscious, limited slate of pictures. They weren't looking for a deep, philosophical meditation on demographics. They needed a hit to stabilize their books. So first thing to go was the title. Harry Harrison's original title, Make Room, Make Room, was a direct plea highlighting the lack of physical and existential space in an overcrowded world. However, MGM executives worried that audiences would mistake it for a comedy related to the sitcom Make Room for Daddy. Thus, the title was changed to Soylent Green, focusing on the invented food product and the climactic reveal the studio insisted on adding. Harry Harrison had no contractual control over the script, and he watched as his grounded social procedural was transformed into a conspiracy-driven thriller. In the novel, the Soylent wafers, short for soy and lentils, are exactly what they claim to be. There is no cannibalism. For Harrison, the horror wasn't found in a secret ingredient. It was found in the sheer mathematical inevitability of a world that had outgrown its resources. By introducing cannibalism, Hollywood shifted the blame from a collective failure of society onto a single, malicious corporate entity. It gave the audience a villain to hate, rather than a mirror to look into. The screenplay removed the nuances of urban planning and contraception debates that defined the book. Instead, it added furniture women, concubines who were literally treated as property that came with an apartment. Harrison called himself only 50% pleased with the adaptation, feeling that these additions sensationalized a very serious warning. The Math of Scarcity, the book's quiet nightmare. In the original 1966 novel, the setting is New York City in the year 1999, a city swollen to a population of 35 million people. Harrison spent years researching resource management and population growth, and his book reflects a new wave approach to science fiction that favoured sociological grit over space-age fantasy. The book depicts a world of everyday squalor, where characters navigate jammed sidewalks and families sleep in stairwells or abandoned ships. Ration lines for water and food stretch for blocks, and new families immediately claim the physical space left by the dead. The terror here is not a sudden death, but a slow, grinding loss of human dignity. The character of Sol Roth, played in the film by the legendary Edward G. Robinson, is a retired engineer and a walking history book in the novel. He serves as the moral compass, explicitly tying the crisis to the failure to manage population growth. While modern audiences might view these themes through a contemporary political lens, in the 1960s, these were emerging environmental debates. Harrison's message was clear: unchecked growth in a finite world is a physical impossibility. The book ends not with a shout of defiance, but with a census announcement of 344 million citizens, reinforcing a sense of no escape despair. This quiet version of the story focuses on the logistics of collapse. It asks, how do you keep a city of millions from tearing itself apart when there is only enough water for half of them? Harrison avoided the easy answer of a corporate conspiracy, making the reader sit with the fact that the system itself was the architect of the suffering. The cinema transition, spectacle and practical terror. When director Richard Fleischer took on the adaptation, he leaned into the constraints of the $4 million budget to create a visually distinct, suffocating atmosphere. Because they couldn't afford elaborate post-production tricks, the production relied on practical solutions that added to the film's gritty realism. One of the most enduring images of the film is the opening montage. Sequence editor Chuck Braverman spent roughly 6 weeks on photo research to create a fast-cut history of industrialization and overpopulation. This was essentially a small film inside the film, synced tightly to a score that transitions from the nostalgic past to the polluted, overcrowded present. The infamous scoop trucks were another triumph of practical engineering. Rather than using optical effects, the crew built mechanical rigs that could literally lift crowds of extras into the air. This choice made the shoot physically demanding, but resulted in a visceral scene that feels dangerously real. It converted the book's abstract population pressure into a nightmarish spectacle of state violence. Another fascinating technical footnote is the appearance of a computer space arcade game in the film. It was the first time a video game appeared in a feature film. In the world of Soylent Green, it highlights a cruel irony. The elite have access to digital entertainment and air conditioning, while the masses cannot even access clean water. Before we continue into the heart of the film's most emotional moment, if you're enjoying this deep dive into cinema history, please illuminate our day by clicking like and subscribing to Golden Flicker. We are a growing channel, and your support helps us keep these stories alive. Also, let us know in the comments which classic film should we explore next. Now, let's look at why the film's most famous scene was more real than anyone realised. The cannibalism trap. Why the twist was added. The revelation that Soylent Green is made from human corpses is an entirely original invention for the movie. In the narrative world of the film, the Soylent Corporation claims the wafers are made from ocean plankton. The twist occurs when Detective Thorne discovers that the seas are effectively dead, and the food supply is being supplemented by the industrial processing of the deceased. From a screenwriting perspective, this twist is a moral shock. It takes the abstract problem of overpopulation and makes it viscerally, stomach-churningly personal. It serves as a metaphor for a society that has quite literally begun to consume itself. Critics at the time were mixed on whether this melodrama helped or hindered the message. Some, like Roger Ebert, praised the film as solid sci-fi and a little more, specifically citing the conviction of the dystopia. Others felt the action thriller elements were simplistic. But regardless of the critical response, the twist worked as a marketing hook. It gave the film a cultural longevity that a straight sociological drama might have lacked, even if it meant reducing Harrison's complex policy warnings to a single horrific secret. The film essentially pivots from policy horror to spectacle horror. While Harrison felt this degutted the book's argument, it undeniably made the film a box office success for MGM during a difficult period, grossing roughly $3.6 million domestically and reaching far more people than the novel ever had. And now, the golden flicker moment. Sol Roth's final goodbye. At approximately 60% into the film, we encounter what is arguably the most poignant scene in science fiction history: Sol Roth's decision to seek assisted suicide at a state euthanasia centre known as The Home. This entire sequence, the curated images of a lost green earth, the needle drop of Beethoven's Symphony No. 6 and Tchaikovsky's Symphony No. 6, and the peaceful transition to death does not exist in the novel. But the true golden flicker moment is the reality behind the performance. Edward G. Robinson, playing Sol, was suffering from terminal bladder cancer during production. He knew that this would be his final film, his 101st in a career that spanned the golden age of Hollywood. Charlton Heston later revealed that Robinson had already told him he was terminal, though the rest of the team did not know. When you watch the scene where Thorne weeps at Sol's bedside while the Going Home music plays, you aren't just watching a detective losing his roommate. You are watching Heston say a real, final goodbye to a legendary friend and idol. Robinson passed away on January 26, 1973, just 2 months after filming Wrapped. The quiet dignity of that scene elevates the entire movie, providing a human soul to a story otherwise defined by industrial coldness. Do you agree that this real-life farewell is the true emotional peak of the film? The Unified Warning, a legacy of collapse. Ultimately, while the book and the film take different paths, they arrive at a strikingly similar conclusion. Harry Harrison's book warned us about the math of disaster, how we cannot have infinite growth on a finite planet. The film warned us about the moral cost of survival, how a system that values profit over people will eventually treat humans as nothing more than raw material. The year 2022 has come and gone. We may not be eating green wafers, but the film's depiction of a greenhouse effect, dead oceans, and extreme wealth inequality feels less like a fantasy and more like a delayed news report. Both versions of the story suggest that if we do not rethink our means of production and our relationship with the environment, the system will not just fail, it will cannibalize itself. The MGM executives may have simplified the narrative to sell tickets, turning a policy warning into a thriller. But they inadvertently created a cultural icon that has kept these vital questions in the public consciousness for over 50 years. Whether through the quiet desperation of a crowded apartment or the loud, bloody scream in a church, the message remains the same. The world is limited, but our demand for it is not. The film's focus on the corporate cover-up reflects a very 1970s distrust of authority, a theme that resonated with audiences then and continues to resonate in the age of climate anxiety. Even if the cannibalism was a studio betrayal, it was a vehicle to carry a larger, uncomfortable truth. The enduring shadow of the green. Soylent Green is often remembered for its ending, but its true power lies in how it successfully adapted a unfilmable sociological warning into a cultural phenomenon. Harry Harrison may have been only 50% pleased with the results, but that other 50%, the part that reached the masses, is what kept his warning alive for 50 years. By taking a quiet political nightmare and making it loud, bloody, and impossible to ignore, Hollywood ensured that the world wouldn't just read about the collapse, they would feel it in their bones. Maybe the twist was a betrayal of the book's structure, but it was a necessary one to ensure the message was heard. If you discovered something new today, illuminate our day by clicking like and subscribe to Golden Flicker so you never miss a story from the annals of cinema history. Which film should we explore next? Let us know in the comments.